Is a PlayStation Portal worth it in 2026? This is a question I was asking myself as I recently got one. I've slowly started to use it more and more as it's been harder to find time to really just sit down and play a game, and just being able to play a game on my Switch 2, whether it's even in my own house, just somewhere else besides my game room, just makes it a lot more convenient. And of course, being able to bring it somewhere, like I had to wait somewhere for hours a couple weeks ago and my Switch 2 kept me sane there. But the PlayStation Portal is very different. While you can play this outside your house, you need to buy PlayStation Plus Premium or whatever it is, and you have to have a good Wi-Fi connection, which outside of your house is not always guaranteed. But for me, I've just used it to play as remote play, and that's what the appeal of the PlayStation Portal was to me. Like, let's say I'm cooking and I'm just sitting in the kitchen. I can't necessarily just go to my TV, turn my PS5, start playing a game, because it would just be annoying. Like, I would play for 5 minutes and then have to go back to my kitchen. That at least allows me to just sit in there, play that game if I want to play while I'm in bed, if I want to play while watching TV in the background. Like, that's to me what the PlayStation Portal is for, not for using it for cloud gaming. And also the price, I got it for a really good price. Like, the normal price is $200, which I can't recommend it at all, but for what I got it for, I thought it's at least worth a try. So I'm going to go over different aspects of it and help you make a decision if you're on the fence about it. So first is the actual size of the PlayStation Portal. So as you can see, I have it next to my Switch 2 here, and it's very similar in size, at least in terms of the screen. Switch 2 size is a little bit bigger, but it's not too noticeable. I don't think there's any issues with the screen size at all. I think the quality of the screen is good, but the streaming quality can be different. I'll get to that. But now, how about the controller? So as you can see, it's literally just a PlayStation 5 controller, just split in two pretty much. Instead of being around the touchpad, it's on the side of it, which I think is pretty cool. It looks nice. As for the touchpad itself, it is still there, but it's actually built into the screen, so it's not the same. Like, I definitely prefer having a touchpad you can just press down on, but it makes sense. Plus, it's not something that you're using the actual touchpad features of it that much. There's only a handful of games you're actually going to use it for. But the controller does feel really good. It's not the same as a PS5 controller, which is one of my favorite controllers ever. It's not quite there. The buttons are mostly the same size. I think they are the same size, except for the actual analog sticks. They're definitely a little smaller on the PlayStation Portal. And it is noticeable if you're playing a game where you need very precise movements. You can definitely feel it. For an average single player game, it's not going to bother you. It's not really an issue. But now the most important part, what about streaming the games themselves from the console to your Portal? So when I first started playing, it looked really blurry. The performance wasn't the worst, but it didn't look great. And I looked up online how to fix this, and apparently if you have your PS5 set to 4K 120Hz as I do, it's gonna worsen the performance. So once I fixed that, once I changed it to 1080p and turned off 120Hz, it ran a lot better. I had no problems with the performance after that when I was playing Astrobot on it. But that being said, it is annoying to just have to go back and forth, turning it on and turning it off, because when I play PS5 on my TV, I want to play in 4K. So I wish there was a feature where when you turn on the Portal, it automatically just switches. Let's say I have a Portal in my different room, I just pick it up and turn it on. I would have to go turn on my TV, go to settings, and change it on there, and it could definitely get annoying. I'll see how much of an issue that actually is going forward. Maybe I just get used to it, but that is something worth considering. But like I said, there's really no input delay when I played a single player game. When I played Astrobot on it as a test, it ran perfectly fine. It didn't look as sharp, obviously. There was still some effects of streaming, but for what I expected, it was actually really good. I was no noticeable delay, and it looked perfectly fine. However, if you're trying to play multiplayer games, I tested Rocket League on it, it's not going to work. You can't play really any multiplayer games on here, just because in a single player game, that slight delay isn't going to matter much. But if you're playing something like Rocket League, if you're playing a first-person shooter or a fighting game where you need to have those quick inputs, it's definitely going to be noticeable. And also with the smaller analog sticks, this is something I feel like it will affect your gameplay. So if you mostly just play multiplayer games and you're not really into single player games, I can't recommend this. It's just not a device for multiplayer games. If you have a Switch 2 and you're looking to play a multiplayer game off the TV, use that instead. These devices serve different purposes. Switch 2, obviously you could bring it anywhere and it's going to run from the console itself. So the Switch 2 is a much better device. That's not what I'm arguing here. But I think you can have both. If you want PlayStation games, you can play them on the PlayStation Portal if you don't want to play on the TV. But this is not a replacement for the Switch 2, and it's not particularly close to being a replacement. That's why it's priced so much less. Now, I recently got it, so I can't say it's something I'm going to be using all the time. Maybe the next 2 months I use it constantly. Maybe I'm using it every day, or maybe it kind of just fades into the background. I start using it just fewer and fewer times, because that's happened to certain devices before that I've gotten. When I first got my Xbox One, I used it at first. There was a lot of games I played on it, but then over time I just shifted way more to PS4, and I haven't used my Xbox One to play games in a long time. And obviously it's because it's the Xbox One's the last generation, but even during that generation in 2018, 2019, 2020, I just was not playing on my Xbox one anymore. So that happens sometimes when you just gradually use a console or whatever less and less. For the price I paid for it, if I can even get a couple months like out of like regular use for it, I think it's definitely worth it. And I'd say it really just depends for you if you think it's worth it. I know I'm not going over all the specific tech specs of this or everything like that. I just want to just kind of give my basic opinions of this to help you make a decision if you're thinking about it, because I was thinking about it for a long time if I wanted to get one. And the deal I found, I just decided to go with it. So here's the people I can recommend a PlayStation Portal to. First of all, if you have the money, like if you don't have a lot of money to spend on games or anything like that, I would say just use that money for games. Use it to buy a Switch 2 if you don't have one, and if you want one. But if that's not an issue for you, or if you find it for a good deal, like if you find it under $150 and you're someone who either wants to use cloud streaming, like if you want to play on the go and you have a good hotspot, or maybe you work somewhere and it has good Wi-Fi and you're able to play it on breaks and you want to do that, or if you just can't always get on your TV to play a game, like maybe you have kids, maybe you have to sit with them a lot and you can't turn on your PS5 and the TV, that's someone I could really recommend this to, as long as you're playing single player games. Again, like this is, if you're playing multiplayer games, cannot recommend this at all. If you're someone who has no problem with just sitting down and playing a game on your TV, then this really isn't going to do much for you. If you have a Switch 2 already and that's where you're using and you don't really use your PS5 much, I wouldn't recommend this either. Like I use my PS5 a lot. I'd say most of the time I play games now, it's off the TV unless I'm playing multiplayer. Like sometimes like at night I'll play like Rocket League or something with friends, and that'll always be from my PS5 on my TV or my gaming PC. But during the day, sometimes if I want to just play a game for 10-15 minutes, if I have time, I'm going to use my Switch 2. But now I also have the option, if there's a game, like I've been playing a lot of Astrobot, if I want to play that, I can play that now. And I have such a big backlog of games on my PS4 and PS5, and it's just hard for me to play. Like as an adult now, it's hard for me to always find time and sit down and play games. And even when I can, sometimes like my friends are always texting me to get on, so it can definitely be difficult. Like when I got my PS4, this was not an issue at all, but that was also over 10 years ago now. So I'm really glad that we've moved in this direction where there's more accessible options for gaming with all the hybrids with this remote player device. And I think the PlayStation Portal is a good device. I don't think it's perfect. I think it's a very specific use. I think the price tag of $200 is too much for it, but again, if you can find a good deal for it, if you can find one that's used in very good condition, I'd recommend it. Because unlike a console, like I can understand wanting to get like a brand new console, like a new console no one's ever used it before, to avoid any issues, to avoid anything that might come with that. But since nothing is actually on this device, nothing is actually on the PlayStation Portal, like internally, I don't think there's really much concern, unless you're concerned about maybe there being drift or issues with the buttons or cracks, scratches on the screen. Then there's obviously reasons to be concerned, because you do want it to be in good condition. But one I got that was very good. I was actually shocked by how good condition it was. Like there's not a scratch on it, the screen looks perfectly fine, everything feels good. And I highly doubt I'm going to look back in a couple months and say I really regret this purchase, because even if I stop using it more over time, like let's say I get even like 50 hours worth of gaming on here, like that to me is kind of worth it. I'd like to get more, like if I get, let's say, a couple hours a week and it just adds up, like that's something that over time I feel is really worth it. But I'll keep you updated. If a couple months go by and I completely change my mind on it, probably make an updated video. I know probably not many of you are watching this. This is my second channel. A lot of you probably just clicked on and clicked off immediately, but if you're somehow still watching this, thank you for watching to the end. Be sure to subscribe. I'm just going to post some of my thoughts on gaming topics here, just anything I find interesting. And if you have not checked out my main channel for whatever reason, be sure to do that. I make much more well-edited videos. This is kind of just commentary video, but if you want to see me talk about more like scripted topics, be sure to check that out. Thank you for watching.